Is there anybody there?
The following haunters have been assigned to you. Treat them well.
Hey guys, my name is Nexus, and this is Ghostmaster. So we're gonna go skip into the ghoul room real quick.
This Gravenville school is your base of operations on the mortal plane. Come here when you wish to train your ghostly minions. However, training costs gold plasm, which you will earn only when you start haunting. Click the button at the bottom right of the screen to leave the ghoul room.
Alright, so it's pretty simple what you would do here. We have a lot of empty little green spots. They mean something to us, of course. We have here one of our ghouls. This is Clatterclaws, who is a little bit creepy. So when you can take a look at these guys, and we'll get to what this means later. But you can see that he has the powers, Scattered Swarm. You can hover over it and it will tell you what it does. So he has all these things. And then he has these empty slots here, which cost, of course, as they mentioned, gold plasm in order to buy them. Now, some things you'll see you have two options. So you have to sort of spend your plasm wisely. You can see that that costs 750, which is roughly 2 or 3 missions. There are 14 missions total. You can go back and earn plasma as far as I'm aware, so long as you do better than last time, I think. So there is kind of a soft limit on that, essentially. Now the orders depend on the type of monster we're talking about here. This one says use only the power of your current power band. We'll get into the intricacies of the orders and how they help, but essentially this is a dungeon keeper type game, and these are our units. So we get to see that he's a horde type. This doesn't really matter too much, honestly. It's a meaningless distinction. The level affects how many orders you can give him at one time, as well as the quality of those orders. As I said, we'll get to what the fetter is, but it basically determines where you can place them. So you have this nice little epitaph that sort of gives you a little biography on the person in question, or in this case, Giant Spider. So we have all these empty spots known as fetters for our ghosties. And we have quite a few ghosties already. We have the normal ones, we have such as this one. He's got some interesting things here and there. For the most part, you basically don't want to hang out here too much. Really, the only thing you'll be doing in this house is scoping out if they've changed their orders at all, or if you need to buy powers for them. So you can always scope out what kind of powers you should buy for them ahead of time. Sometimes you have to play a mission through to figure out kind of which powers you need in order to progress. But anyway, let's get the heck out of this ghoul room since it looks so weird. And let's go back to here. As you saw, you can exit it from either menu, either by the button at the bottom or just the escape button. So we have here Haunting 101.
You are ready for your field training, young Ghost Master. We are taking you to the Kappa Lambda sorority house in Gravenville University. Only a small number of sorority girls are in residence at the moment, but scaring them all away should be a sufficient test of your abilities.
Before embarking upon a haunting, you must select your team of ghosts. To play the tutorial, which is highly advisable, click upon Recommend, then upon Go Haunt. You can elect to assemble a team yourself, but you can only benefit from the tutorial with the recommended team.
Okay guys, so here we have our recommended team, consisting of this one, this one, this one, and this one. To sort of explain, we're basically just using a couple heavy hitters and some nice cheap frights, essentially, in our arsenal for this recommended tutorial. So you'll see here you can always check what the power does. So I can explain the fetter in a bit. We are going to go through the tutorial with the tutorial on. You can do the tutorial level without having the voiceover tutorial, so always consider that. But with that in mind, just for the record, certain things are cheaper than others in terms of what it costs with what's essentially your mana. So between 1 and 6 on this, obviously 2 would be cheaper than the 5, and we don't have 1 and 6 right now. But it also depends on whether it is one of these left ones or one of these right ones. So sprites...
These 6 tabs allow access to 6 different haunter classes arranged in order of power. Sprites will drain your haunting resources the least, and horrors will drain them the most.
So as the tutorial lady explained, from left to right, cheaper to more expensive in terms of mana costs. However, that's not necessarily always the case 100% of the time. For example, I know for a fact that his second ability is worth 20, and I believe that for the most part, that's kind of across the board for just about everything from left to right, except for the horrors because they're so expensive. But anyway, let's go on to the tutorial.
Welcome to the mortal realms, where all your haunting will take place. If you need to freeze time or abort the haunting, click on the menu icon bottom left or press Escape. If you wish to turn the tutorial off but continue this haunting, click on the menu icon and select Options. If you move your pointer to the edges of the screen, you will be able to move around the world. You may also use the arrow keys to move around. To rotate your view, click on the rotational arrows displayed on the screen. The view can be rotated left and right in 45-degree increments used. You can also rotate your view through any angle by holding the right mouse button and moving the mouse. When you hold the right mouse button, moving the mouse left and right rotates the view, and moving the mouse up and down tilts the view. You can restore the original view by clicking on the cube-like button between the rotational arrows. You can zoom in and out using your mouse wheel. Insert and delete will also allow you to zoom in and out. You can click on the up and down arrow icons to move between different floors. Try it for yourself. Floors can also be changed using the page up and page down keys or by holding the right mouse button while using the mouse wheel. You may want to change your viewpoint to reflect your needs. A zoomed-out long view is good for planning. A closer, zoomed-in view aids in selecting specific mortals or assessing their behavior. Also remember that you may not see everything of importance without changing your viewpoint. To help you keep track of the mortals in each haunting, you have the Mortal Pack. Point at a mortal's image in the pack. When you position your cursor upon a mortal's pack icon, a box appears informing you of their status. The red bar shows a mortal's terror, the yellow bar, their madness, and the blue bar, their belief. As you frighten mortals, their red terror bar will increase in size. The white portion of a bar shows a mortal's willpower. When terror exceeds willpower, a mortal will flee. Likewise, when their madness exceeds the white portion of the madness bar, they will go insane. Click upon a mortal's image in the pack to view their options menu.
Okay, now I'm going to stop this little tutorial lady right here because she is going to repeat a lot of things that are pretty simple to explain. It is a very good tutorial, so if you're playing through this for the first time, I do recommend listening to it in its entirety. However, let's get this show on the road. So, what she was talking about just now was viewing them. For example, you click view, you go to see them, she's on the toilet, so we get to see her doing a sim-like activity. Go to just brings you to them in terms of where they are on the map. Point of view is something interesting. You can see through their eyes to get a good idea of where their location is or what they're seeing. Weirdly enough, you can actually see your ghosts even if the person in question can't. So the other interesting thing is when people are asleep, this is what they see. It's pretty comforting and calming. It's a nice break. Anyway, the other thing that's important is their bio, which is this. This is Cindy. She's spooked by loud noises. Now, we don't really have a good way of knowing that. This is outside the box knowledge, essentially. So her fear doesn't list itself. Certain abilities from her ghosts, such as, for example, Taste Aura, will let you know what the fear is. Let's see. And then subconscious fear, I think, only happens when they're asleep. Mood kind of depends. It usually doesn't really mean anything except that it means that they're either more likely to be scared quickly or less likely to be scared quickly. Or they might have just been driven insane, in which case there's a couple things with that. So you may notice occasionally I hover over an item and it pops up with a name. So you'll see that, she's sleeping, that's a mirror, that's earth, that's electrical. A couple random things here and there in the house, such as emotional for the carpet for some weird reason. These are fetters. When you hover over one of these, you may see that, for example, the green box around this starts appearing, depending on which place you're hovering over. And that will sort of let you know which of your ghosts can be bound to that fetter. The other thing you can do is hover over the ghost in question and it will actually highlight all the fetters that you can see. So that's kind of cool. So there's a couple other things. We see this blank portrait here, and I'm sure you saw her in the introduction cutscene. This is Weather Witch.
Dreaded dust! I used to command the storms, dearie, but since I went and got myself sucked into this electric broomstick, all I can manage is this infernal sneezing! It'd be a different matter if I got free, mind you. I'd whip up a storm to wake the dead!
Okay, so she's basically given us hints on how to get her free. And that's kind of our goal. We're trying to essentially help the dead by getting justice from the living. So one of the things we do is we go around the maps freeing ghosts, and they become part of our army, essentially. So, what can we do? She's bound to a vacuum that's made of electricity. Well, we see that we have an electric type ghost over here. So we can look at his various behaviors and see that he does actually have basically an AoE that says that every device malfunctions. Now, I want to discuss this, the plasma cost. When you bind a ghost to a fetter, which is what this button does, when he has no power selected, it costs a certain amount. This is where the actual classification of whether it's a sprite or a horror or anything in between sort of pops into mind, is that it depends on how much that initial cost is. You'll see that, for example, all of these happen to be 5 or 10, except for this one, who's much higher up in terms of his costs. He's 20. He's more of our heavy hitter, essentially. So one of the things you want to do, which I wish I could turn the tutorial back on sometimes because I just want to skip some of the more basic things that are covered much faster. This is your plasm. Now, right now it's frozen because we haven't done anything, and this gives us time to sort of plan out our strategy on this map. So, the instant we bind one of our ghosts to a fetter, it will instantly unpause, but only after we actually bind them. We can set as many powers as we want. Until the instant that we bind them, nothing's going to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to actually get started on doing something else. You see, we're about to free her with this.
Okay, dearie. I'm on your team now. Let's blow this joint!
So, of course, one sorority girl comes to investigate because it's a very interesting situation going on. One of the other things, though, you may notice is that the bottom number here is going up. The more you scare the people in the map, the more plasm you will have to operate with. This is essentially how you gain your mana, because your plasm is your mana. So, the thing above that is how much your ghosts are costing you. So, just gonna double check for everybody and just place that in there real quick. Let's see. So I think all of these except for him, yeah, he's housebroken, actually. So he's actually pretty cool. He has more than one order. So since I'm just sort of waiting to scare them, I can explain this. So when you say use only the power at your current power band, that means if you set it to here, he'd only use that power. He'd only use that one anyway because that's his only ability highlighted. But if you had it up here, he'd never use this one. He would just be completely unable to. So we have quite a few ghosts, and we have quite a large ability to actually do something with them. I'm actually trying to decide where to place her. She's one of the more versatile ones. She has thoroughfares, which pretty much means any type of hallway, especially ones that are outside. She would actually fit in here and here as well, because they count as a thoroughfare in sort of a hallway. So we get some interesting things every now and then, and I'm hoping I can get up to the part where someone will be extremely terrified of something for no apparent reason, other than because it's just kind of their thing. I think we saw that one of them was spooked by loud noises. Yeah, scared of anything with more than 4 legs. She's already pretty scared just from seeing the spiders. So, definitely there's quite a few combinations that you can do that are pretty interesting. This sudden action cam here is to show us that she's frightened of being sucked into the earth, which is kind of an oddly specific fear, but that's alright then. We do actually have a ghost that will do that too, which is pretty interesting. So anyway, if you ever forget what their fear is, you can just go to their bio and see that. Now we're watching her with the action cam right now because she's actually fleeing in terror from the map. So she's going to be leaving us, and she's going to go away forever. She's not going to be coming back here. We've basically forced her out of house and home. So a lot of what you end up doing, and of course it shows the action cam when they actually get to the edge of the map for some reason, it can be kind of annoying and you can actually miss it if you're in the middle of, for example, switching like this. You may actually accidentally turn off the action cam for that specific action. So sometimes it's better to just have your hands off the keyboard or mouse so you don't accidentally click something. and then miss that something's happening. However, you'll notice the camera here says, hey, there was just an action cam incident. You can go check that out just by pressing view again, and then it will basically solve the problem. Now then, I'm going to bring them all out here, if I can. So, some ghosts have something that I would basically classify as a lead. Siren Song is one of those. It brings them to the area. So, it's sort of a compulsion type thing. Now, the tutorial did mention something that was kind of weird and a little bit interesting. You can see the red and the blue, and it said that once the red exceeded the blue, that, you know, the red bar exceeded the blue bar, that they would flee, but that's not the case. All you have to do is get the red bar above the white bar, in this case. The blue bar just kind of seems to make them more susceptible to scary things, rather than actually causing it to actually be an indicator of how close they are. It doesn't really matter too much. There are kind of very few things you would actually use the blue bar for. Let's see. I can hopefully get her to stop going in rooms where there is nobody. She does hate spiders though, and she just picked the wrong room to walk into. So you may notice she's in the middle of fleeing. Her X is not solid, it's flashing, that's what happened to all of them. Once it's solid, they've left the map. If it's flashing, they're usually on their way there. So one of the really frustrating things about this can be having to wait for them to actually get to the edge of the map. And there's always a designated flee point. She can't just leave through this way. She has to leave through this way, because it's the only spot they've really designated as a flee point. So, rather than end the mission exactly when they should probably, you have to wait for them to flee all the way to the end. Alright, so obviously I didn't get a great score. Part of that's because I took so long, part of it's because I just kind of spent some time explaining stuff and fooling around. Your timer does start when the mission starts. It doesn't start when you play something, it starts when you actually load up the mission. So you can see we get a lot of points for freeing ghosts. Most levels have ghosts that you can free, usually more than one. And obviously banished ghosts, or haunters as they like to call them, that hasn't happened yet, so I'll explain that when we get to it. You do get points for scaring people. Not a whole lot, just a little bit here and there. You get a lot more for actually making them scream, or faint, or become paranoid, or a couple of other things, and status effects. So we got about 70,000 points until it factored in the time bonus, in which case we basically got a bronze rating. So, this has been Ghostmaster, and I will see you guys next time.